Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us this morning. Good news on the horizon. I'm talking about the, judicial officers. There's a President Bola Ahmed Tinubu bill that he sent, executive bill. He's the guy pushing this, that he sent to the National Assembly. In particular, the House of Representatives has already approved the president's bill seeking the salary increase for judicial officers, starting from the Chief Justice of the Federation. Okay, we'll look into that. I don't know if my guest qualifies as a judicial officer, because all sorts of people are going to start sending him congratulatory messages and texts. Good morning, Jide Ologun.
Thank you very much.
And commentator.
Thank you very much, Akiyori.
So I said, I'm not one of them, but it seems very, very exciting. The status. Many people feel that, now this is more in keeping with the office and functions of their lordships and all other people concerned. Although there have been other comments, but by and large, one of the main thoughts that I've heard coming out is that, when a man is adequately taken care of, there's very, very little room, really, ordinarily speaking, for hanky-panky, to put it like that.
Absolutely.
You're in agreement with that?
I agree.
And what do you think of this being a Bola Ahmed Tinubu initiated move?
Yeah, if you look at Section 58 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, by virtue of which the president pushed the bill, the National Assembly can pass this into law. But eventually it will still come back to the president for assent. Yes. And it's a welcome development. You see, what we grew up to know is that judicial officers are expected to be focused on that noble assignment that they have. And it is necessary to constantly benchmark the responsibilities they carry with the macroeconomic situation. And if you look at the country as it is today, just like the NLC also is agitating, there's a need to upscale not just their salaries, but their fringe benefits and their allowances to ensure that they focus on what they are there to do. And like you rightly mentioned, it reduces the temptation to be corrupt. And if you look at Section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it says clearly that the state shall abolish corrupt practices and abuse of office. And one of the ways of ensuring that you eliminate corrupt practices is to ensure that you have sufficient equipment for those who operate in that office. So it's we hope that it scales through. Like I said, it still has to go through procedure. And if that scales through,
isn't it simplified greatly by the fact that, one, it's a presidential bill, two, the House of Reps has not wasted time. All that's left now is
it's gone through 3 readings, So, and that's what I'm saying. But it just have to come back to the president, like you said. He's the president that is promoting it. And basically, it will also prompt agitations from those outside the judicial.
Of course, it has started already.
In fact, already in the Southwest, the NLC chapter is asking for about 70-something thousand naira as minimum wage. So. And you can see that now pushing the frontiers of the economic pressure on the nations. And I hope that the nation is prepared.
Well, again, there are those. I imagine maybe the president was of the mind that we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But this is very, very important. As you know, it's properly called the president seeks to amend aspects of the using its full title now, Certain Political, Public and Judicial Officers' Salaries and Allowances, etc. Act. And this would see the Chief Justice of Nigeria, his remuneration jumping
about
800%.
Yeah, about 5 million.
Yes. 800% to, let us even call it, for 64.6 million naira per annum. Well, Supreme Court judges themselves will be earning in the region of, just slightly less at 60.47 million. Yeah, those are dizzying figures in in this climb. It's just that one would have wished that, many would have thought, if they didn't know anything about the details, that that was the level at which these people must have been operating. But it has been anything but. It wasn't the level at which they were operating. In fact, when you heard of the former salaries, so that's why President Tinubu seems to have taken. It wasn't just a long jump. It was a hop, step, and jump, taking care of so many lapses. But we still will have to deal with it, because how are you going to accommodate this? It's going to trickle all down. You see. No, maybe as we talk, we'll go into it, because the Esther Code for a Chief Justice.
Exactly.
Did you know that?
I did.
That was in the region of what? Over
$2,000.
About $2,000 a night.
A night.
A night.
So, and that is.
But like I said, you can't begrudge them. Any reasonable.
Let's go back to year 2022.
Okay.
When the Supreme Court was under the leadership of Honorable Justice Tanko Muhammad. You recall that about 14 justices of the Supreme Court actually came out with a protest, allegations of high-handedness, that they were not well equipped for the services they were rendering, and no adequate trainings, and that led to the exit of the former CJ from office. And one of the things that the present CJ has achieved, Honorable Justice Ariwola, is to even have a full complement of justices in the Supreme Court, you see. And now the president is now saying, okay, even beyond this, let's see to it that they are well equipped to focus on what they are expected to. In the olden days, you hardly found judges in social gatherings and things. They were like monks.
Yes. Yes.
Focus on that assignment.
They really could isolate themselves from society.
And focus on that.
I like that.
And I think we should be moving back to that regime of pure professionalism, so that you don't sit there as a judge and you are still bothered about your container on the high sea that's
or, as we heard in a certain case, bags of rice.
Exactly, just to cope with the economic demand.
Yeah.
And don't forget, in Nigeria, we have what I call dependent economy, where someone is in authority and there are, many personalities depending on what comes from that office. So, whether in the church, in the mosque, in the community, everywhere. So, but you have raised a very valid point, sir. And now that we are going higher, how are we going to cope? Because I read recently that the total indebtedness of Nigeria is now in the region of over 90 trillion naira. And I asked myself, I think it's knocking on the door of 100 trillion. So how do we manage this should also still be considered, except that maybe what we have been saving from the subsidy that is gone and sharing to governors, we just have to find a way so that we don't just increase the salaries and the fringe benefits and allowances. We also increase the capacity of the national economy to cope with this elasticity. It's very important. If not, several agitations will come from other quarters, and it becomes a huge stress on the government.
I agree with you. And predictably, there already are rumblings, critics of this move, saying that whereas they don't, the way they are phrasing it, they don't actually have anything against this, but why are you singling out the judiciary and these judicial officers? Why are you leaving out other equally important, crucially important sectors, professionals in the society? And they cite, for instance, education. Why are you leaving out education? Why are you leaving out health? I guess there are no easy answers, and we have to start at one point. But then it's probably not unexpected that such critics are accusing the president of making the three arms of government comfortable, is the word, and then leaving the vast majority, the rest of us, to sort of, cope as cope we can.
I have a response to that. You see, we have 109 senators, 360 House of Reps members. representing various constituencies in the country. And Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says that the National Assembly shall make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good governance of Nigeria. Now the President has brought a bill. Those who are in the National Assembly can also prompt bills towards other areas of concerns. Even groups can prompt, and that is why we have lobbying. If you come to discuss politics in public relations, there is a room for lobbying, and that is why they have the lobby in the National Assembly to project the interest of some special groups. And this can be pushed. But the critical issue now is that perhaps this is what is paramount to the President. And by virtue of Section 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, we have vested the executive powers in him and some to support him in exercising that executive power. And at the end of the day, I'm still asking my question. If we have this increase, how are we going to cope? It's important. And don't forget that the issue of ASU and has been going on and on and on, and some of the promises made. In fact, that is one of the cases NLC is driving now, that even the promises to increase the minimum wage to 65, additional 35,000 unofficially has not been implemented. Because as we speak now, constitutionally and statutorily, the minimum wage in Nigeria is 30,000 naira because it's not been fully reviewed. That is why we have the committee to review it. So we need to look at all these. The agitations will go on and on and on and on and on and on. And that is why governance is a collective issue. And I'm just trying to awaken the citizens now that you need to engage those who represent you in the National Assembly and even state houses of assembly to represent the interest of the citizens by way of making laws that are relevant and by way of oversight functions. Because at the end of the day also, they are the ones to appropriate when the budget comes and things like that, and so that your constituency budgetary allocation will not rise from 200 to 500 million suddenly, and some are getting 75 million. Because I looked at that also. If you look at the statutory 200 million for the senators, that is about 21.8 billion naira. If you look at the 150 million for the House of Reps member, that's about 54 billion naira annually. So, and you should.
And a lot of people think it's far too much. No, I'm just saying.
Yes.
A lot of people think it's far too much.
They think so because the reflective development in these constituencies may not be there.
Also, they're looking at what it is, what is it that they bring to the job. That's another thing people look at, given how candidates...
Uncle Ali, I'm not talking about the salaries and allowances, so constituency allowance.
Okay.
That go on, this this is what is allotted to you to impact your community, your electorate.
My bad, you're right.
Those, the big ones.
But that other one that I brought into it, is it not also something on the minds?
That's
what we're talking about remunerations. We know what it takes to become a Chief Justice, you know. And for that matter, you begin to say you know what it takes to become a professor. You know, you know what it takes to become a doctor. In short, it's not beans. And you won't just get there anyhow.
Absolutely.
You're going to get there because of a specialization, a rigorous specialization. So, but taking all the comments that we've made so far, and we'll put on the phones now, I imagine that a lot of people also want to add their own. The body of senior advocates of Nigeria, you know, they have commended the action, applauded the action. It goes a bit beyond what do you expect them to do. It goes a bit beyond that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like I said, let's leave sentiments apart. That office is a revered office where those who occupy the spaces are expected to be above board because it's exposed to temptations. Yes. Because when we talk about corruption is a two-way thing. You have the offer and acceptance. So if people are not offering corruption, there won't be a room for accepting corruption, you see. But that is also hoping that those who are sincere will remain sincere.
Yes.
You know, because if you look at the inflationary rate in the country and the dependence economy I brought on board, because as a judge, for instance, you can imagine the number of those in the communities who look up to them. You see, so these are issues. And that's why my advocacy really is that while attending to all this, can we look at how we can retract the economy of the country back to a virile economy that can be supportive? If we have the resources, if we have the revenue drive to sustain it, I mean, why won't a Chief Justice earn 15 million per day if we can afford it without going borrowing? And we have enough resources. You know, I've said it. Talking about Africa, for instance, Africa has about 40% of the total resources of the world. So, and what God expects is that you translate your resources to wealth. So if that is what we have been doing, and we try to create a level playing ground in terms of remuneration and things like that, like you mentioned right now, some lecturers, professors are annoyed. Some of them have left the country that, hey, with all we have put into getting to this office, how much do we earn compared to a senator? And the senator will also tell you, do you know the burdens I carry? Do you know when I go to my constituency, number of people queuing at my gate to collect money for naming ceremony, for freedom, for, you know, to pay school fees and rents and things like that. And that's why we need an economy that is self-reliant and supportive to the citizens. And that's what we have in Section 15 and Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. So the government still has a huge responsibility to carry out.
And I don't want to overstate the point, but to whom much is given, much is expected. And we said it earlier in a jocular way. It's to become a judge. It's not beans. It's not beans. You are a specialist you are a specialist, and nobody can take away from that. The other thing, of course. Oh, I'm told that Mr. George has come in from Ikeja. Good morning to you, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Dr. Logan.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, I'm surprised that the CGN and the other judicial officers were any less than what the figures were saying. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So I was saying that I'm surprised that they were any less than these figures that are being revealed now compared to the National Assembly members. A member of the House of Representatives, that money that a judge is earning, the CGN is earning in a year, is not up to one constituency allowance that they earn. So, it's a step
to put things in perspective.
Yes, it's a step in the right direction.
Indeed.
But there is a saying that to whom much is given, much is also expected. I want the CGN and the judiciary in its entirety to reciprocate this president's gesture by doing something about the sluggishness of our justice delivery.
Yeah.
President Jonathan signed a law called the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. In that act, the justice system was to dispense with cases within 6 months, and they were to adjourn not longer than 2 weeks. And cases are to be tried consecutively. For example, you would say this case is going to be tried next Friday and then next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 3 days consecutively. But what we see is you adjourn one case for 6 to 8 months, and then somebody will be in detention that has not been charged for 5 years. This is not a good system. Now that they are well paid, I want them to please justify that. And then to the NSC. Okay, the NSC must not come up and start telling the president that they should 800% increase as well. For what?
Yes.
Promoting corruption.
Okay.
That's just what I want to say.
Okay, Mr. George. You know, all that Mr. George has just said there, taken. And but I also wanted to sort of bring something in. We've been speaking here about the issue of corruption and judiciary and how I don't really, I feel uncomfortable emphasizing, talking about that particular point because the judiciary anywhere in Nigeria here is not something that you should frequently have the judiciary and corruption in the same sentence as we do happen to have here. So I hope we aren't overemphasizing that particular benefit because many lawyers like your good self have spoken about incorruptible judges and that they are not that scarce. But the thing here is finally, and this will go to Mr. George's point and the NLC, finally being recognized for the humongous job that they do that is thankless. And as you said, back in the days, you didn't see judges at Owambe parties.
Absolutely.
You didn't see judges wearing ashwebi now. It just didn't seem to go. There was no law against it.
Yes,
but the way you revered those people, they didn't do very much to compromise that reverence that way. I mean,
I think it's a general thing, and that's why I always bring it back to the macroeconomic environment. It's not just within the judicial circle, even within the legislative circle, we've read a lot of things, you know, within the civil service and all. And we must just find a way of reestablishing the glory of the Nigerian economy. And that means all stakeholders must be involved in it. And the perception people have about corruption in the judiciary, it's a perception. And that is why until the justices came out during the last general elections to pronounce their final decisions, 13 hours and things like that, many were still not convinced. And of course, we must come to the point when people focus. And permit me to say this. You even get to some public offices talking about civil services and you are amazed. I'm still wondering, why should it take about 9 months to get the national identity number in a country? Why? Look at what is going on in the Nigerian Immigration Service now, where you can start processing your passport, international passport renewal and things like that online before you go and show up. In fact, at a time, the Controller General of Immigration complained. He went to, I think, the Ikoyi office that serious atrocities were being committed.
Of course.
So it's a general thing.
We all know.
You know,
we know it.
Some offices now, you get there with the big names they carry, no generator to power their processes, sometimes no photocopier to photocopy documents.
We used to hear about this in the judiciary as well, remember?
Exactly.
Remember?
So we need, yes, I complained at a time, you know, that you have to deal with clerks and they tell you there is no paper and this, you have to
all
go
of
and bring
that.
this. So this is a global corruption concept about the way our country is managed.
You're very right.
I doubt if there is any ministry that is exempted from this or...
Even the police will tell you that there's no paper to write your statement with. I mean, you will hear sometimes that there is no vehicle to go do the needful.
Yeah, you recall the case of Nnamdi Kanu, where the police said there wasn't logistic to bring the man to court. And I said, if I were to be the judge, I would have asked that they go and pull out 2 of my Hilux vans and go and bring
and use that logistics to go and bring.
And that's what the last caller made reference to.
It is.
Justice system should be fast. We had a case on property with a bank that lasted for 15 years.
I was going to go there.
From High Court to Supreme Court, 15 years.
I was going to go there, that this is not news anymore, that there are cases in the Supreme Court that can last 20 years. If you're not in that system, it boggles the mind. You don't understand what are they.
Uncle, I was in a court in Ogba in Ikeja. In fact, eventually I got close to the magistrate because I was just wondering how she was coping. No electricity and the batteries of inverter not functioning and the magistrate sweating and lawyers also finding. And I just kept wondering that, what is this?
Part of Tinubu's initiative here, it also would include bringing a lot more judicial officers on board. Mazio Koroafo, apologies for keeping you waiting. Good morning to you, sir, in Arochukwu.
Good morning, Sayori. Good morning, our guests. Yeah, Mazio Koroafo, Arochukwu. You see, Sayori, our law officers need clean and living wages. Clean and living wages in the sense that it will make them work well, because we all know that corruption leads to comfortability. And comfortability leads to what? To corruption. So that is why they need what we call a living wage. That for the loan, it's money. Sometimes when you look at some of this, you stand out and say, this one, is it how the old people don't do, or this, is it as you're talking about Abada and the rest? If you see a law officer, only his appearance will make you like the profession. But this time around, there is. And I want to talk on our law officer, the strike, what as possible. This issue of awaiting trials is too much. What is our lawyer? What do they gain from this issue? Go to this. It doesn't go to correctional centers everywhere, fit to capacity. If you go to SEN, why? Because I know the only profession, any job you are doing, you need money. But there should be reason, they should have a second thought that this issue of our does not help our judiciary system, does not help the suspect, does not help the environment. It makes everything there. What's the sense of going to court? Now, if you look outside Nigeria, when you see when they are trying all these people kidnap and on the screen outside Nigeria, you see everything there is nice. But here today, they are still writing primary school exam, which is not good. They should move on, migrate, go to this issue of digital era. That's an old law should have what? Computer, fully air conditioned. Why are they still going on this paper and watching it? Even when they want to try a major issue, they say it's an act of, they will not televise anything, we just be hearing before they talk that you will not even see the judges on the screen. But outside Nigeria, no matter how terrible or how strong the case, you see the judges there on the celebrity televised live. In that case, you only see the audience, that's the lawyer, that is all, which is not good. So they should think about it and have a second thought that we should migrate to digital era. Good morning, sir. Good morning, I guess.
Thank you very much, Mazi Okora, for calling in from Arochukwu.